Chumash for Friday. Shishi. Today we're going to continue talking about, this is one of the famous Torah readings because it talks about the temple procedures for sacrifices about on all the holidays. So we're going to list all the holidays. It's not all the laws of all the holidays. It's just what the service was in the temple to bring certain different karbanos offerings on the different holidays.
And it has
Karban musaf.
And it only is the only parsha that has a broken letter that Hashem put in it, and it's not puzzle. It's kosher.
Right.
I gotta say that to everybody.
What do you say again?
It's there's a vav in our parsha that's broken.
A vav that's broken. Okay.
And Hashem did it. It's kosher. It's not puzzle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something. Pesach David teaches us something new every day. Tezayin. L'chodesh Rishon in the first month, on the 14th day of the month. Pesach Lashem. It's a offering of the Paschal. You bring the Pesach offering on the eve of Pesach to Hashem. On the 15th day of this month of Nisan is a festival. You know a festival? Shivas Yom Matzos Yachel. For a 7-day period of matzahs you shall be eaten. Yud Ches. B'yom Rishon, the first day, Min HaKodesh, on the first day is designated for holiness. Kol Melachas Aved Lo Yisasu. You must not do any work you must not do any work for livelihood. Kol Melachas Aved, any work for livelihood. Even necessary work for you, such as something that, if not done, incurs loss, which is permitted on Chol HaMoed, is prohibited on the festival itself. Even necessary work, such as something that, if not done, you lose. So, meleches avodah, which means work, labor of work, or work of labor. It means you can't do work even if it's your livelihood. That's what it means. Meaning it's not like just bonus. It's like this is your job. You can't do it. Now on Chol HaMoed, which doesn't talk about here, which is the intermediate days of the holidays, that you are able to do work, but only work that you need to do to for your livelihoods. For example, you can go to the office if you have patients, or whatever. Okay. You shall offer a fire offering, a burnt offering for Hashem, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 sheep in their first year. They shall be perfect for you. Bulls correspond to the merit of Avram. As it says, Avram then ran to the cattle. So why do we do these things? To represent the patriarchs. Avram, it says, he ran to serve the visitors, a bull. Elim, that's to bring a bull. Elim, you bring rams. The ram is Isaac, because he was going to be on the altar. The binding of Isaac was replaced by a ram. Kivasim, sheep. Who's that? Yaakov. We know Yaakov. He was a sheep tycoon, right? The whole thing with love and sheep. This is from the Yesod of Rabbi Moshe Hadarsha, and I saw this. All right, Chaf. Umin Chasam says, their meal offering shall be fine quality flour mixed with oil. 3/10 of an ephah of each bowl. Shnei Esreinim, and 2/10 of an ephah la'ayil. Min Chasam says, the meal offering should be fine. 3/10 of an ephah for each bowl, 2/10 of an ephah for each ram. Ayil tasa. Chavav Yisrael tasa. You shall offer 1/10 of an ephah for each sheep. The kev zechad. Shiva zakvasim for the 7 sheep. Chabez usir chatas echad, one sin offering goat l'chaper lechem to atone for you. Chav gimel mavad elas habayker. This is besides the burnt offering, the morning burnt offering. Asher elas hatamid. This is besides elas habayker. That is, this is besides the daily tamid. Tas Ela, which is a regular burnt offering. Chavdal Ka'ela Tas Laim Shabbatim. This is what you should do for the 7 days. Lechem, bread. Yisherech Nechech LaHashem, a burnt, not bread, food on the fire as a pleasing aroma to Hashem. Alelas Hatamid Yasim Niske. This is in addition to the daily Oila. You shall do it and its port offerings. Ka'ela Tas Laim. You shall offer these on each day. They should not be gradually diminishing like the bowls of the festival of Sukkot. On the 7th day, you shall be designated for holiness. You must not do any work for livelihood. On the day of the first ripening produce, when you offer Mincha Chadash Hashem, a new meal offering to Hashem, on your festival of weeks, the Shavuos. A designation of holiness shall be for you. Any work of livelihood you shall not do. So it's going to repeat a lot of this. You don't do work and bring this communal offering. Chavav Rashi. Rashi, on the day of the first ripening produce, on the festival of Shavuos is called the time of the first fruits of the wheat harvest. This goes on account of the 2 loaves of bread, which are the first of the wheat meal offerings that are brought from the new produce. You shall offer a burnt offering to be pleasing aroma for Hashem. 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 sheep in the first year. And their meal offering shall be fine quality wheat flour mixed with oil. 3/10 of an ephah for each bull. 2/10 of an ephah for 1 ram. A 1/10 of an ephah for each sheep. For the 7, for a 1/10 of an ephah for each sheep. For the 7 sheep. Lamed series and mechad, 1 young goat to atone. To atone for you. You shall carry out the service of these offerings. Besides the oilas hatamid mincha, you shall do it to me, lechem and iskem. These offerings shall be perfect for you as well as their port offerings. All right, Lamed Aleph, Rashi. These offerings shall be perfect for you and their port offerings. Meaning, usually we say the word tamim, complete, which is by the animals that you bring, but also the wine has to be complete. It can't be like impure. What does it mean impure? Here we learn that wine that develops mildew is not valid. So it has to be good wine. Can't be, even though you're like, who cares? It's going on the altar. No one's drinking it. Mm-hmm. It's got to be good wine. Mm-hmm. Tamim, even by that.
Sure.
And Gary and Mark, for those that are wondering, always the lingering background question of who cares about all these sacrifices, right, Gary? We've had that before.
Correct.
No, I don't ask that anymore, Rabbi.
Mark. So Mark is new on the show, so we have.
Yes, I had that thought.
So I will give you. I've said this many times, but it's always good to hear because it is a very powerful understanding of the relevance of the sacrifices. So, in very short, you have to first of all, this is why we learn Tanya and Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, is because you can't really understand the Torah without that kind of spiritual background knowledge. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of a lesson of Kabbalah 101, and I hope it resonates, and then it might make sense in, to understand our topic at hand, the sacrifices. A big idea, you might even pick this up from Tanya over the past few weeks. It's not really from Kabbalah, it's really, it goes to the book of Genesis, is that the world is created ex nihilo. Does that sound familiar? Mark, Gary?
No,
Basically, the world was created something, as a something, an existence, out of nothingness.
Wow.
Right? That originally there was nothing besides God. There was no concept of anything else than God's, infinite and essential existence. But one day, whatever, God wanted to have a world, to have a relationship with humanity. And then when that happened, then now all of a sudden there's existence, there's a world, there's a universe. It's called something from nothing. In Latin, ex nihilo, creatio ex nihilo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
Which means, just so you understand, and it all ties together with Tanya and the Torah and the Chumash, is that anything you see in this world exists originally as nothing more than a part of God. It has no independent existence.
Wow.
Because everything, it came out of God, right? Or as we like to say, it came out of godliness, out of certain aspects of God that were subsumed within God.
Mm-hmm.
And which is what we talked about in Tanya, that everything you see in this world has a spiritual source where it exists in a different realm conceptually, and God, through the whole process, makes into a physical depiction. So an example of this is we said about grass. You look at grass, beautiful grass. It says there's no blade of grass that doesn't have an angel above it. That's kind of its angel that's ultimately influencing it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you another example. This is actually more relevant to the sacrifices. We know in the Torah, we read on Shavuos, the vision of Ezekiel. We read in the Haftorah of Shavuos. Because you were both everybody here was at a Shavuos reading. That's what we read. Obviously, the vision of Ezekiel is not literal. When it says that God was a four-sided chariot, a vision of God, a four-sided chariot of a human, of a man, supernal man, of a supernal ox, a supernal lion, I think a supernal eagle, I think. Obviously, God is not, some Greek mythology, Zeus or something, God forbid. It's all just language about something spiritual. But that is one of the famous revelations of God, or some revelation. Now, a way to understand that revelation of Ezekiel, which is very fundamental, you can Google it. It says that really those four things represent energies, how God manifests in the world. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I won't get into the energies are always going to be, the elemental chart of energies is always the 10 sefirot, which we talked about. I'm not going to get into that now. But be it as may, they're energies. They represent the lion, the eagle, the man, the supernal man, and the ox. So, okay. In other words, there's a long way to say, how does physical stuff exist? There's a whole hidden back end of spiritual existence, which ultimately is rooted in God. So there's God, there's spiritual existence of everything, conceptual existence, spiritual physics, and then there's the way it evolves, or God creates it into physical stuff. But every physical creation is mapped out with a spiritual source counterpart. Is this making sense before I go on?
Yes, but connected to the sacrifices?
Yes, now. So it's important to know all this, because that's really the way we reconcile how How is God one, and yet there's all this trillions of stuff in front of us?
Trillions.
So the answer is that everything that exists is we see physically is in a continuum that originates in God or in a spiritual version of the physical thing. Something physical that comes from a nothing, from something that we can't explain. Okay. The reason for the sacrifices and the reason they were really the mainstay of Jewish service was because the Jews, as we said earlier in Tanya, were on a much higher level. The world was on a higher level because the fact there was a temple showed there was a home for God's presence. In other words, God's interacting in a more felt way. There's still free choice and people still sinned plenty, but there was a more spirituality was much more intrinsic to the spiritual unknowable reality was much more embedded in our physical life at some level. Closer. It was embedded into the physical. When a person would bring a sacrifice, bring a sheep or a goat or a cow, alongside that, they didn't just bring the animal. They also brought flour. Many times it came with a flour offering, wine. We said a wine libation offering. And there was always salt. And then you also always had the human being, the kohen, who was the one offering on behalf of the person. Which means that actually is another thing about big fundamental. There's the Torah maps out 4 strata of existence. What's the 4 strata of existence? Strata, like level things. What's the universe made? What's the physical world made out of? Mm-hmm. Humans, animals, vegetation, and minerals, and inanimate stuff like minerals. Basically, the sacrifice wasn't just an animal. It was really a depiction of everything the world has to offer. The human being offering it, animal, flour and wine, and then salt as a mineral. And that all went up on the altar. That was to show a gift from from our realm as a thanksgiving to God or a connection to God. But here's how it connects. It says in the Gemara, in the Talmud, that when you bring a sacrifice and it was done correctly, it says a fire would come from heaven to eat it.
Whoa.
What does that mean? Like, laser beam fires coming? So it's understood. This doesn't mean literally fire. It means it was the reverse of creation. So just like everything creation is spiritual, hidden, to become evolved into physical, here you take the physical and you would de-evolve it or unevolve it back into the spiritual. And that's what it means the fire would suck it up. Does that make sense?
Yes,
in
that
other
makes
words,
sense.
It doesn't mean we can relate to it. It doesn't mean we, in our very diaspora, as we said today, in Tanya, slightly spiritually handicapped from this type of connection from lower sense of existence to higher. But that is the way the world was in those days because of the temple.
So not just a connection, but a interaction.
Oh, very good. I like that. Interaction, exactly.
Good word.
It's a very good clarification.
Okay.
So the sacrifices was a primary way of the human being giving the best the world has to offer, at least a little microcosmic version, to interact with the spirit to show how God is real, how beneath the cow and the salt, and there's Hashem, there's a pulsating spiritual, unknowable thing, and they could experience that to some degree. So it was like it was creation in reverse, was every sacrifice. Mm-hmm. A creation is the hiding of God. Creation reverse is the unraveling and revealing the God and the godliness and everything. All right.
Rabbi, do you want to say
Okay, Jordan.
What?
You want to say about a sin offering? That should happen to them? Or no?
Yeah, it's the details. Okay, Paragraph test, chapter 29. We continue with the next holidays. In the 7th month, the first of the month, it shall be designated for you for holiness. You must not do any work for livelihood. It shall be the day of the wailing horn for you. You shall then carry out the service of a burnt offering to be a pleasing aroma. Before Hashem, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 sheep in the first year. Gimel. Minchasim says, below shemen, their meal offering should be fine quality flour mixed with oil. Shleisha on the par, 3/10 of an eighth for the bull. Shneis on the oil, 2/10 of an eighth for the ram. Dalit. Bisaron echad lekev zechad, 1/10 of an eighth for each sheep. The shivas akvasim for the 7 sheep. Hey. Series echad lechatas, one young goat is a sin offering, lechaper lechem to atone for you. Vav milvad, elas achedish min chasa. This is besides the monthly burnt offering and its meal offering, elas hatam min chasa, and the daily burnt offering and its meal offering and its and their libations, the wines. This came according to their. So again, this is the 7th month from Nisan, aka Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah is the 7th month. We count in the Torah by Nisan being the first month. So 7th month is what we call our first month, the Tishrei. So day 1 is Rosh Hashanah, but it happens to also be Rosh Chodesh. It's the first of a month, just like any month. So you have to bring on top of the special sacrifices for Rosh Hashanah to commemorate that energy of the day. You have to also commemorate it's the first of the month, like any first of the month. And that has yesterday we said it's amount of sacrifice and offerings. The reich nechech is a pleasing aroma. Ish Hashem has a firing for God. Vav and Rashi mavad el chedesh. Most chedesh should be in Rishon. Okay, so I said okay. Zayin. Obe asar lechedesh v'yazeh, and the 10th day of the 7th month. Mirkesh yelachem should be designated for holiness. When Yisem is nafshesechem, you shall afflict yourselves as komlach leisasu. You must not do any work. Ches v'krav v'meila Hashem reich nechayach. You shall offer burnt offering for Hashem as a pleasing aroma. One young bull, one ram, kivas meshar shiva, 7 sheep in the first year. They should be perfect for you. Test minchasim says lo shaman, their meal offerings shall be fine quality wheat flour mixed with oil. Shleishas on the par, 3/10 of an eighth for the bull. Shnei Yisraelim, 2/10 of an eighth for the Eilachad for the one ram. Yud. Yisarani Yisaroi, and 1/10 of an eighth for each for each sheep. Shivas akvasim for the 7 sheep. Yirav series of mechal chatas, one young goat as a sin offering. Navad chasakipuram satamid, besides the atonement sin offering, elas hatamid, and so this is besides you bring on Yom Kippur one young goat, besides the atonement offering, which is elsewhere talked about, besides the regular burnt offering because of the day, and chasam and miniskem their port offerings and their wheat offerings. Yiralef. Besides the atonement sin offering, the young goat whose service is carried out in the inner sanctuary, which is stated in Achrim should also sin offering. And the regular burnt offering, and besides the regular burnt offering, carry the service tas elas halal, you should do the burnt offerings. Niskehem with their port offerings. This refers to most of the offerings written above. Tasu shulash, and so this is a command. This is besides the regular burnt offerings. So every time it says the niskehem, the wine libations, but all the holidays, it's the same thing. It means wine. Basically, you bring the wine offerings, which we said elsewhere is the amounts. Every animal has a certain amount of wine that it has to be brought with. Yes, so this is besides, it always means wine, besides by Sukkos, where it says it a few times, the Beniska, Beniskem, and Secha, which is going on the regular burnt offering, and it's not a command. For the port offerings of the Musaf are written separately for themselves on each day. Basically, there's more. You pour water as well as wine, so it's more Here we could get more general. Just bring whatever the amount, the ratio of wine to animal for every one of these animals.